Call is now being recorded.
Okay, good morning to all. ഇപ്പോൾ ഓർമ്മയുണ്ടോ ഒരു ബ്രേക്കിന് ശേഷം നമ്മൾ വീണ്ടും കാണുകയാണ്. ഇതൊക്കെയാണ് നമ്മൾ ഈ മാനുഫാക്ചറിങ് പഠിക്കാനെല്ലാം അറിയോ? ഓർമ്മയുണ്ടോ ഇപ്പം? ഹലോ.
Asa,
ഓക്കെ, അപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ 5 modules ആണുള്ളത്. നമുക്കറിയാം ഫസ്റ്റ് മൊഡ്യൂൾ വി ഹാവ് ഡിസ്കസ്ഡ് അബൌട്ട് ദി കാസ്റ്റിംഗ് ആൻഡ് ഡിഫറെൻറ്റ് കാസ്റ്റിംഗ് പ്രോസസ്. Then in second module, it's about welding. There we have discussed about different welding processes, different welding techniques and all. Then third module is about rolling process. അതിലും കുറേ റോളിംഗ് പ്രോസസ്സുകളാണ് നോക്കിയത്. Then now ഫോർത്ത് മൊഡ്യൂളിൽ വരുന്നതാണ് ഫോർജിങ്, എക്സ്ട്രൂഷൻ, ഡ്രോയിങ് ഓപ്പറേഷൻസ് ആൻഡ് ഓൾ. ഇത് കൂടാണ്ട് ഒരു ഫിഫ്ത്ത് മൊഡ്യൂൾ ഉണ്ട്. ഓൾറെഡി ഫോർജിങ് പ്രോസസ്സൊക്കെ നമ്മൾ നോക്കിയതാണ്. ജസ്റ്റ് ഒരു റിവൈസ് പോലെ, റിവിഷൻ പോലെയാണ് ഇന്നത്തെ ക്ലാസ്. ജസ്റ്റ് നോക്കാം, സ്റ്റാർട്ടിങ് തൊട്ടാണ് നോക്കാം. ഫസ്റ്റ് വൺ ഈസ് ഫോർജിങ്. So forging is also like metal rolling process. Forging is also a metal forming process. Okay, in which the workpiece is shaped by a compressive force which is applied through various dies and toolings. So we will use different tools, materials to uh, apply the compressive force in order to get the required shape of the final material. So here also we can carry it out either in hot process or either in hot condition or in cold conditions. And generally, hot working process is carried out. Okay. So by using forging, we can make various different structural cross sections, discrete parts, sheets, strips, plates, and all. So usually, what we will use here in order to apply compressive force is usually if it's a hand forged operation, we will use a hammer and an anvil. Okay. So traditionally, it is done by blacksmith. You might have seen in blacksmiths operations and all. They will use a hammer and an anvil in order to shape the material. Okay. But most advanced or machine type of forging requires a set of dies or powered hammers and all, or machine presses and all in order to get the compressive forces. So uh, again about the cold and hot forgings. If the forging is carried out at room temperature or below the recrystallization temperature, we'll call it as a cold forging. Or if it is carried out above the recrystallization temperature, we will call it as hot forging. So some of the merits of this process is close dimensional accuracies can be achieved by using this process. So we require only a very little machining after the forging operations. So whatever operations we are doing means if you want to produce a final product, we have to do a series of operation on this product. Okay. So with a single operation, we will not get the final product with the accurate dimensions. So we will do machining process after. See, if you are doing a rolling process, sometimes we will do a machining process. If you are doing forging process, sometimes we will do machining process. After that, we may do super finishing process and all. So there will be series of process before we get the final product in the required dimensions. But in forging, by using forging, we will get very close dimensional accuracies. So only very little machining is required after forging. So that helps in saving the material. Okay, there will not be much scrap in this method. And also higher strength and great productivity, then favorable grain orientation, and high degree of surface finish are other features of this forging operation. And one of the limitation of this process is the complex die making. It will be costly. Okay. So here we require different set of dies in order to apply the compressive forces. Okay. So this making is or based on the dimension of the product or shape of the product, we may need to go for different shape of dies, different complexity designs may be there. So these type of complex dies will increase the cost. So that initial cost will be there. That is one of the limitation when compared to other manufacturing processes. Okay. Applications comes like in bolts, disc, gear, crankshaft, connecting rod, valve bodies. So all these elements are manufactured using forging operations. especially connecting rod. That is an important point. Connecting rod in the engines, automobile engines, it is manufactured by using forging method. Okay. Then grain flow and strength in forging. So grain flow is a directional orientation of metal grains that have been deformed by forging. So we know that the grains, there is an orientation for the grains. So even after the forging operations, the grains will reorient and it will be a final orientation. So individual grains are elongated in the direction of the metal flow or plastic deformation. So grain flow occurs to some degree in all metal forming processes. Some mechanical properties do not vary with respect to orientation related to grain flow. Uh, for example, strength and hardness of the material are not influenced by the grain flow. Usually these type of mechanical properties will not vary significantly with the grain flow. Some mechanical properties like strength and hardness is not influenced by the grain flow also. So the grain flow has significant effect on the crack propagation in a material. Okay, so we know that the cracks when formed, it will propagate based on the arrangement of the grain. So properties like fatigue, strength, impact toughness, and ductility can be improved if the crack propagation direction and grain flow are properly aligned. Okay, so if the grain flows are properly aligned, we can reduce the propagation of cracks, and thereby we can give more fatigue strength or more impact toughness to the material. Okay. So forging yields a grain structure oriented to the part shape, resulting in optimum strength, ductility, and resistance to impact and fatigue. So by properly controlling the metal flow in the grain structure, these forged parts will have very good strength and toughness, uh, which can be obtained, which can be used for highly stressed and critical applications. So the forged components makes it to be used in such applications, such highly stressed and critical applications, or such operations. Then coming different types of forging operations. Okay. Uh, One is upsetting. So this is a process, as you can see from the figure, this is a process applied to increase the cross-sectional area of the material at the expense of its length. So we are applying the force in the axial directions. So there will be a reduction in the length of the material of the object, oh, sorry, of the this workpiece. Thereby, there will be an increase in the cross-section area. Then this upsetting is also called known as jumping or heading. Then drawing down. So this is the opposite of operation of the upsetting. Here the length is increased at the expense of its width or thickness or both. Here force is applied perpendicular to the length direction of the component. This is also called drawing out. Okay, that is about drawing out operation. Then next one is flattening operation. So you can see from the figure what is flattening operation. The surface of the workpiece after drawing down or fullering will have marks left on it. These are leveled off by the flattening operation with the suitable tool. Then fullering, this is the process of reducing the cross-section area of a portion of the workpiece. Here also the length of workpiece is increased through an outward metal flow away from the center of the fuller. Fuller is a hard tool used for this purpose. Okay, so by using fuller tool, we can reduce the cross-section area. So it is given in the figure. The edging is another type of operation. It shapes the end of the bars by concentrating metal at the ends. So for this, we will use a concave shaped dies. Then this is the process of edging shown here. Then swaging is another type of operation. Here also concave shaped types of dies are generally used to get the required shape. Then bending is another type of forging operations. Here also various edges of rectangle blocks are used for making this type of angular bends. Okay. Usually in Smith forging and all, they will use this anvil in order to get that curvilinear bend. Then punching is another operation. It refers to the operation in which a punch is forced through a workpiece to create a hole. The hot workpiece is usually placed over the anvil face. Punching creates a hole by removing some material from it. Okay. So that hole making process is called punching. So PSC is another type of process here. It will produce a blind hole here. This is the process of making indentation on the hot workpiece. But no material is cut and removed from the workpiece. The workpiece is usually confined in a die cavity, and a cavity is made on it without removing any scrap material from it. So it's process of piercing a hole into that. So in this process, no material is removed. Actually, this material will be adjusted by itself uh, with the others. The coining is another type of forging operation. Here we know that impressions are produced on both sides of the material. Uh, the blank or slug is coined in a completely closed die cavity, not to produce fine details such as in coins. The pressure required can be as high as 5 or 6 times the strength of the material. While doing coining, lubricants are not applied because they can become entrapped in the die cavity, and being incompressible, they prevent the full reproduction of die surface details and surface finish. Because by using the die, actually we are reproducing the image or the impression on the die onto the material while doing the coining operation. So if you are using lubricants, the lubricants they are liquid and they are incompressible fluids. So what happens now? The impression in the die may not get onto the material or onto the coin. Okay, so lubricants are not usually used during coining operation. Then there are different, these are the different operations of forging. There are different methods of forging also, like smith forging, drop forging, press forging, and machine forging. That we have already discussed that. Smith forging, a village blacksmith may use a hammer, and he will use power hammers in order to make the desired shape on the product. Then drop forging, by using drop hammers, we can shape the product. Then press forging, there we will use here we will use uh, forging presses in order to squeeze the material, like some hydraulic presses we can use here. So likewise, we can apply the compressive force pressure on the material. In machine forging, we can use different types of machine in order to apply the compressive forces. Then again, how can we classify the forging process? So based on the working temperature, we can classify. Based on the forging equipment, we can classify. And also based on the forging constraints, we can classify. Based on the working temperature, already we have discussed. There are two types, that is hot forging and cold forging. Then based on the equipment, they can be grouped as hand forging operation and power forging operation. Okay. So in hand forging means it's a manual forging operation. So in this manual process, impact pressure is applied to the workpiece by way of hammering. Okay. So various types of tools are used by the this blacksmith for use applying this compressive force. So it is also called as smith forging. But in power forging, it's most commonly used for large scale manufacturing, from very small to very large components. So they make use of different forging hammers, different forging presses like hydraulic press and all, different forging machineries in order to apply the compressive force. There are two types. One is hand forging, that is manually we are giving the compressive force or we are applying the pressure. But in power forging, we are using certain type of machineries or presses in order to give the, in order to use the material. Based on the constraints to metal flow. So based on the constraints to the metal flow, it is classified as open die forging, closed die forging, and flashless forging. That is open die forging, closed die forging, and impression die forging. Okay. So in open die forging, the metal is not completely confined as it is undergoing forging process. In the simplest form, a solid cylindrical workpiece is placed between two flat dies and compressed to reduce the height and deform it laterally. This process is known as upsetting. Consider a block of rectangular cross section as shown in the figure undergoing open die forging. So we can see that lengthwise we are applying the compressive force, so the length is reducing and the dimensions, other directions will increase. Okay. So under the ideal condition, the workpiece get deformed as shown in figure B. But we know that, but there will be frictional force in between the surfaces. So actually, the material will not be, we will not get the material as seen in the figure B. Actually, we will get in real cases, we will get the material as in the figure C because there will be frictional force in between the joining or the surface, this uh, boundary surfaces. So actually, the material will bulge like this. So due to friction between the die and the workpiece surface, the workpiece deforms into a barrel shape as shown in the figure. So that is the barreling. So this barreling can be minimized by the use of lubricants or by the use of heated dies. Okay. So most of the open die forgings are produced using flat dies or platens. Also round swages and V dies are also used in pairs or with a flat die for open die forging. So that is the open die forging method. That's the usual commonly used type of forging. So it has got several advantages like simple to operate, uh, then it's suitable for low volume production. Then equipment and tooling are inexpensive and etc. The limitations are suitable for simple shapes only. That is one of the limitations. Then close tolerances are difficult to obtain. Then second one is impression die forging. So it's a type of it's a closed die forging operations. Here the workpiece get deformed into the shape of the die cavity when it is forged between the closed die. So initially what we are doing is we are using die, but it is not a closed cavity. It is open. So it is the skill of the operator what determines the final shape of the material or final dimensional accuracy of the material. But in impression die forging, actually we are using a closed type of die. So we are squeezing the material within the die cavity. So what happens? The material will deform into the shape of the die cavity. Okay. The die cavities have the replicate shape of the forged component here. So when the two dies are brought together, the workpiece undergo plastic deformation until its deformed sides touch the side walls of the die, as shown in the figure. So what happens there is, in between the pair of die, there is a flash produced. Actually, a part of material will skew into the boundary of the two dies. That is called a flash. So in between the upper and lower die, there is a flash produced. As the die closes to its final position, some metal flows out through the small gap between the dies to form a flash. The flash cools rapidly and provides increased resistance to further deformation. As you can see that the flash, the material thickness is very less when compared to the thickness of the actual product. So what happens is that the heat transfer will be more at the flash. So the material at the flash will solidify easily or in a faster rate compared to the inner core material. Okay. So what happens? Since the flash cools rapidly and it provides an increased resistance to further deformation, the flash effectively acts as a part of die and helps to form a closed die cavity. So it will reduce the further deformation. It helps to fill the material into all the nook and corner of the die. Further forging pressure acting on the die lead to increased pressure on the workpiece and helps the material flow into unfilled areas of the die cavity. It also got several advantages like complex shapes can be produced here because we are using the material in between the dies. So the any complex, whatever the complex shapes you are giving, the material will be deformed or fused into all these uh, complex corners and all. And it is suitable, other than the last open die forging, it is suitable for mass production. The limitation is more steps are required for each forging, then an equipment tooling cost will be higher when compared to the previous one. Then flashless forging or closed die forging. So the second one, impression die forging, is it's a type of closed die forging only, uh, but certain amount of material in the form of flash we need to remove it. So it is we can't call it as a complete closed die forging. But complete closed die forging means it will be a flashless forging. There will not be any flashes. So the impression die forging is often called as closed die forging, but in the true closed die forging, no flash is formed. Okay. So this impression die forging also comes under it is also a type of closed die forging, but in a true closed die forging, there will not be any flash. Okay. So this type of flashless forging are called as closed die forgings. So here the hot workpiece is deformed to completely fill the cavity as shown in the figure. So you can see that uh, when a compressive force is applied using a punch onto the material which is inside a die cavity, so that material will convert into a finished part. So there no flash is producing there, no material wastage is there. So completely by applying the compressive force, we can convert the initial billet into a final product. So such a type of forging is called closed die forging. So here proper control of the volume of work material is essential to obtain a good quality forging, as there is no provision for flash formation. If the starting blank is larger in volume than the volume of cavity, it may damage the dies upon application of pressure. If the blank is smaller in volume than needed, the cavity will not be filled completely. So what we have to do is what is the volume of the material required? That is the final product. What is the volume of material required? The correct volume of the billet we need to use here. If it is if the volume is more, then what if, when we are applying the compressive force, it is going to damage the dies. If the volume of the material is less, then it is going to what the enough material will not be there in order to make the final product. Okay, that means the cavity will not be filled completely. Then comes the forging method analysis. So we have discussed that while applying compressive force in ideal condition, that is the figure B shows without friction. But in actual case, we know that there will be barreling and bulging. That is, with the friction, there will be barreling and bulging. Okay. So so bulging refers to a non-uniform flow considering on the plane of the loading, while barreling refers to the non-uniform deformation along the height of the specimen. So in order to overcome this thing, that is that this extra work we have to do, this extra work done to distort the grid and to create bulging and barreling is called redundant work, as the work is not spent for useful deformation. This type of deformation is called non-uniform deformation. So initially we have seen that the total work done or the total what uh, power what we have to give here or total work what we have to give here is equal to the ideal work plus friction work plus redundant work. The ideal work is the actual work of deformation. Friction work is the work done to overcome friction. And what is the redundant work? So that is what given here. Redundant work is nothing but it is the extra work done to distort the grid and to create bulging and barreling. Okay, so that work is called redundant work, and it is a non-uniform. That is, this type of deformation is called a non-uniform deformation. Then in forging method analysis, there are different types of method like slab method, slip line method, viscoplasticity method, upper bound method, and all. So we have only the slab method for our study. This one, this some derivation part we have already discussed in our previous classes. So So in coming to the point, in SLAM method analysis, actually we are using a rectangular workpiece in plane strain. So in this lab method, we have studied three different conditions based on the based on the status of the friction between the workpiece and the die. First condition is sliding friction or slipping friction. That means the coefficient of friction will be low. Second one is sticking friction. That is, the coefficient of friction will be high. That is, stick together. First one is sliding or just slipping. Third one is sliding and sticking friction. That is when the coefficient of friction varies along the contact surface. That means sometimes it will be a sliding type, sometimes it will be a sticking type. So these are the three conditions, and the three conditions we have discussed in the first condition. We will get the forging pressure as sigma naught into e raised to 2 mu into L minus h by h. Mu is the coefficient of friction between the workpiece and the die. H is the height of the workpiece. L is the length, and sigma naught dash is the flow stress. So what is flow stress and all we have already discussed in the module 3. Then this as we know that as the length to the height that is the length to the height of the workpiece increases, the forging pressure increases. This means the resistance to compressive deformation is increased. So this variation of the forging pressure and the stress is shown in the figure. We can see we know that you need to study the shape of the figure. You may get a question in the unit sum to plot the shape of the work done graph or the variation of forging pressure with respect to the applied stress. And the average forging pressure will be 1 by L into integral of 0 to L PdH. Similarly, from that, after the derivation, we will get sigma naught, P average is equal to sigma naught by L into H minus 2 mu into e raised to 2 mu L by H minus 1. Similarly, in the case 2, that is sticking friction condition also, we will get the average pressure as 2 sigma naught into 1 plus L by 2H. And also we will get the this variation graph as shown in the figure. The case C, it is the both slipping as well as the sticking condition. There also we'll get a graph as you can see from the figure. Then come to the forging force. The forging force required in open die forging operation on a cylindrical piece of metal can be determined using the following formula. That is F is equal to sigma F into pi r square into 1 plus 2 mu r by 3h. അപ്പോൾ ഞാനിത് കുറച്ച് സ്പീഡിൽ പോകുന്നത് ഓൾറെഡി നമ്മളിത് കഴിഞ്ഞ 2 ക്ലാസ്സിൽ നോക്കിയ കാര്യങ്ങളാണ്. ജസ്റ്റ് നിങ്ങൾക്കൊരു ബ്രീഫ് ഒന്നും കൂടി കുറച്ച് നാളായിട്ട് നമ്മളിത് നോക്കാതെ നിങ്ങൾ S3 സബ്ജക്റ്റുകൾ നോക്കുന്നതാണ്. അപ്പോൾ ഒരു ഐഡിയ നിങ്ങളുടെ മനസ്സിലേക്ക് വരാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് ഒന്ന് ഓടിച്ചു വിടുന്നതേ ഉള്ളൂ. ഓക്കെ, നെക്സ്റ്റ് ക്ലാസ് തൊട്ട് നമ്മളത് നെക്സ്റ്റ് ടോപ്പിക് തൊട്ട് തന്നെയാണ് തുടങ്ങുന്നത്. അതിനുശേഷം നമ്മൾ ഡിഫോർമേഷൻ സോൺ ആൻഡ് മെക്കാനിക്സ് ഓഫ് ഡിഫോർമേഷൻ ആണ് നോക്കിയത്. അപ്പോൾ നമുക്കറിയാം എന്താണ് മെറ്റൽ ഫ്ലോ, ദ ഫ്ലോ ഓഫ് മെറ്റീരിയൽ ഓർ ദ ഫ്ലോ ഓഫ് ദിസ് മെക്കാനിക്സ് ഓഫ് ഡിഫോർമേഷൻ. That is, this metal flow will be influenced by many factors like tool geometry, friction conditions, and characteristics of stock material, thermal condition assisting the deformation zone. Okay. Then roll forging is a type of forging, or it is also called cross rolling. So roll forging is a specialized rolling process in which a pair of rolls with shaped grooves is used for shaping the cross section of circular bars. Also, it is called cross rolling. When we have learned about the rolling process, so we have learned about this process, that is, this is roll forging. So even though it is rolling, it is a forging process. We are applying compressive force pressure here by using shaped grooves, as you can see from the figure. So it has got certain application for the production of tapered shaft, for leaf springs, table knives, hand tools and all. Q rolling is another type of rolling process only for producing ball bearings and all. Then various defects in forging, the different defects in forging are called shut, unfilled section, flakes, scale pits, internal cranks, die shifts, and surface cracks. So detailed, we have discussed this in the previous classes. The next topic is the extrusion. So here we will study about drawing, extrusion, and forging. The forging is over. Next is extrusion. So what is extrusion? It is a process by which a block of material is reduced in cross section by forcing it to flow through a die orifice under high pressure. ഓക്കെ, നമ്മൾ ടൂത്ത് പേസ്റ്റിലെല്ലാം സ്ക്യൂസ് ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ നമുക്കറിയാം അതിൻ്റെ ഉള്ളിലുള്ള ടൂത്ത് പേസ്റ്റ്, ആ ടൂത്ത് പേസ്റ്റിൻ്റെ എന്താണ് ആ ട്യൂബിൻ്റെ ഷേപ്പ് എന്താണോ ആ ഷേപ്പിൽ പുറത്തേക്ക് വരുമല്ലോ. സിലിണ്ടറിക്കലായിട്ട്, സർക്കുലർ ഷേപ്പ് ആയതുകൊണ്ട് സിലിണ്ടറിക്കലായിട്ട് വരും. സ്ക്വയർ ഷേപ്പ് ആണെങ്കിൽ സ്ക്വയർ ഷേപ്പിൽ പുറത്തേക്ക് വന്നേനെ. So depending upon the shape of this orifice, the shape of the extruded cross section can be different. Okay, so typical products made by extrusion are tubes having various cross sections, structural and architectural shapes, doors and window frames and all. So commonly extruded materials are aluminum, copper, magnesium and their alloys. Okay, ഇതൊക്കെയാണ് സാധാരണയായിട്ട് ഈ എക്സ്ട്രൂഷന് വേണ്ടി ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്ന പ്രോഡക്ട്സ്, മീൻസ് മെറ്റീരിയൽ, അലൂമിനിയം, കോപ്പർ, lead, steel, magnesium and all. An important feature of the extrusion process is that the grain flow of the material lies in the direction most suited to resist applied stresses during usage. It is possible to obtain even complex shapes which cannot be obtained by rolling or other means. Complex shapes also we can obtain by using extrusion process. So there is an extrusion ratio term which is the ratio of cross-sectional area of the work material to the cross-sectional area of the product. So for steel under hot extrusion, it is taken about 40:1, and for aluminum, it is taken as 400:1. That is, it is a ratio of the cross-sectional area of the work material to the cross-sectional area of the product. Then this extrusion, it is classified as hot and cold extrusion. In hot extrusion, there are two types, forward and backward extrusion. In cold extrusion also, there is forward and backward extrusion. Again, it is classified as hydrostatic extrusion forging and impact extrusion. In hot extrusion, what is happening? The work material is heated to a temperature above its recrystallization temperature. Then we will fuse the material inside a die. Okay. So this hot extrusion can be carried out as forward extrusion, that is direct extrusion, or backward extrusion or indirect extrusion. So you can see from the figure here, the first one is forward or direct extrusion. Okay. So here the heated billet, that is a piece of metal, is kept inside this cavity, inside this container. And we are using a ram in order to apply the compressive force on the billet. The work billet is shown here in the black color, and there is an orifice here, that is a circular shape here. So while we are applying a compressive force using the ram, this uh, in between the dies, this material will flow out and we will get the final shape of the product. So the metal is extruded through the die until a small amount remains. അല്ലെ കംപ്ലീറ്റ് ആയിട്ട് റിമൈൻ ആവില്ല, കുറച്ച് അതിൻ്റെ ഉള്ളിൽ തങ്ങി നിൽക്കും അല്ലെ, ബാക്കി കംപ്ലീറ്റ് നമുക്ക് ഫൈനൽ പ്രോഡക്റ്റ് ആയിട്ട് കിട്ടും. ഹിയർ ദ എക്സ്ട്രൂഡഡ് മെറ്റൽ ഫ്ലോസ് ഇൻ ദ സെയിം ഡയറക്ഷൻ ആസ് ദാറ്റ് ഓഫ് ദ മൂവ്മെന്റ് ഓഫ് ദ റാം. നമ്മൾ ഏത് ഭാഗത്തേക്കാണ് ഫോഴ്സ് അപ്ലൈ ചെയ്യുന്നത് അല്ലെ, റാം ഇപ്പോൾ ഇവിടുന്ന് ലെഫ്റ്റ് നിന്ന് റൈറ്റിലേക്കാണ് ഫോഴ്സ് അപ്ലൈ ചെയ്യുന്നത്. സോ ദ എക്സ്ട്രൂഡഡ് മെറ്റൽ ഓൾസോ ഫ്ലോസ് ഇൻ ദ സെയിം ഡയറക്ഷൻ ആസ് ദാറ്റ് ഓഫ് ദ മൂവ്മെന്റ് ഓഫ് ദ റാം, ആൻഡ് ഹെൻസ് ദ നെയിം കോൾഡ് ഫോർവേഡ് എക്സ്ട്രൂഷൻ. ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് ഓൾസോ കോൾഡ് ആസ് ഡയറക്റ്റ് എക്സ്ട്രൂഷൻ. Okay, അപ്പോൾ ഇതാണ് ഫിഗർ. Second one is indirect extrusion or backward extrusion. So what is happening here? Here the extruded metal moves out in opposite direction of the movement of the ram. Movement of the ram ഇവിടുന്ന് ലെഫ്റ്റ് നിന്ന് റൈറ്റിലേക്കാണ്, ബട്ട് the material is extruded from the right to left. അല്ലേ? So what is this? So such a process is called indirect extrusion or backward extrusion or reverse extrusion. Okay. Here the billet in the container remains stationary and hence no friction is involved. So ഇവിടെ രണ്ട് കാര്യങ്ങൾ ശ്രദ്ധിക്കണം. First one is we are using hollow ram here. In the previous case we have used a solid ram, but in this case we are using a hollow ram. So inside this hollow ram only we are getting the final product. Okay. So while we are applying the pressure by using the hollow ram, the extruded product will be coming inside this ram only. So it is hollow, inside it it is coming out. Okay, so that is in opposite direction. These both are moving in opposite direction, so it is called as backward or indirect extrusion. And the second point is, in the previous case, while we are applying the pressure here, actually this billet is completely moving inside this cavity, inside the container. So at all the contact surface of the work billet, there will be a frictional resistance. But in this case, since we are applying, we are using an indirect extrusion here, only the part of material contact to the die will be experiencing a frictional force. That means here very less friction or negligible friction is involved in the case of backward extrusion. Or we can say no friction is involved. വളരെ നെഗ്ലിജിബിൾ ഫ്രിക്ഷനേ ഉള്ളൂ. വെൻ കമ്പയർഡ് ടു ദി ഡയറക്റ്റ് എക്സ്ട്രൂഷൻ നമുക്ക് വേണമെങ്കിൽ ഇവിടെ ഫ്രിക്ഷൻലെസ് ആണെന്ന് പറയാം. ഇൻഡയറക്റ്റ് ഓർ ബാക്ക്വേർഡ് എക്സ്ട്രൂഷൻ ഈസ് ഫ്രിക്ഷൻലെസ് എന്ന് വേണമെങ്കിൽ പറയാം. Okay, because here the billet in the container remains stationary and no friction is involved. Then the ram or plunger houses the die within it, and the extruded metal comes out through the hollow plunger or this ram. Okay. Handling the extruded metal is not much easy, and the use of backward extrusion is limited. Okay, but the other problem is since we are using a hollow ram, the stability will be less. Okay. So the handling this extruded material also is difficult. So it is not having much applications, or its application is limited. So this is the figure showing the indirect or backward extrusion. The next one is cold extrusion and hydrostatic extrusion is there. The remaining portions and the next topic we will be discussing in the coming classes.